everyone. I know that where my Facebook is alerting everyone that we are coming up live here. We have a poll that we have put out today, and we want you to answer those questions as you feel led to do so. But good evening to everyone. Hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving that we just had. That you didn't eat too much, didn't gain too much weight. Oh my God, I feel like a monster. Hey Tony, I feel like a monster from the holiday. So my husband will be joining me shortly. We got some really good topics that we want to talk about tonight with regard to relationship, how to build your relationship, and things that tear your relationship down. And we want you to actually chime in too and tell us what your thoughts are about those things. But we want you to go to our poll, which is those questions that you see. You should be able to see the questions there, and give us some answers, and we're going to go back and revisit those answers shortly. My husband will be joining me shortly. He went to go pick up my son from driver's ed training, so I can have another driver in the house and even more expensive insurance. That's what we can do. So yeah, very good to see you. Thank you, Tony, for the loves and hearts and the likes. We love it. Continue to like. We will be going live on Instagram when he comes in. So again, he should be arriving shortly. But again, go ahead and answer those poll questions. We'll get right into the topic as soon as he gets in. But one of the questions, and I'll just kind of tell you what those questions are, and then you can kind of go and you can write your answers into those questions. The first question is appreciation something you need in a relationship? Do you really feel that every time you do something that your significant other, your husband, your wife, or the person that you are seriously dating, they have to always appreciate you? Do they have to always say, oh, I really appreciate what you did, or I really think that what you did was amazing, or show appreciation in some way? Is that important in a relationship, for a healthy relationship? The next question is, would you rather your partner lie to you or hurt your feelings? That is a hard question. Yeah, and I think we're probably going to get some answers that people don't realize, or maybe some unexpected answers on that. So would you rather that your partner lie to you than hurt your feelings? So if you say, do I look fat in this? Do you want him to lie to you, or do you want him to to tell you the truth and hurt your feelings? All right, the next question is, having a best friend of the opposite sex appropriate in marriage? And having a best friend, is that appropriate in marriage? And then, of course, this is or even having a best friend of the opposite sex appropriate if you're in a serious relationship. I know that actually a young person, they told me that their friend told them that they couldn't be friends anymore because their boyfriend did not like it. And this is a millennial young person, so is that something is it a big deal? Can you have a person that's been your best friend for forever? And then also the last question is for married people. Definitely for married people, but how long is too long to go without sex? So we got to be some options there. Is it a day? Is it 3 weeks? Is it a month? How long is my husband is silly. He's on here on live saying I'm cute, whatever, and giving me hearts. So that's who's liking all my stuff. 6 to 7 minutes away. Oh my God, 5 to 7 minutes away. So I hope that was 5 to 7 minutes ago when he put that comment in. Anyways, so I want you to answer those questions. Again, how was your Thanksgiving? We hope that it was amazing. And we hope that you enjoyed your family. I hope that we gave you some tools to help you make it through Thanksgiving. We did not have a lot of people for Thanksgiving this year purposely, but we had a good time. We had a great time. My children, all my boys were here. So, and a lot of their friends were here. So, a lot of food got eaten, but it was good. And actually, my other son had taken leftovers and took it back to the dorm, and they ate it again. And they sent me a video of how great the food was. So that was good. So a great success. So anyways, we're getting into it, getting back into our poll questions. What do you think about appreciation in your relationship? Would you rather your partner lie to you than to hurt your feelings? Is having a best friend of the opposite sex appropriate in a marriage? And how long is too long to go without sex in a marriage? Wow, that is a bunch of loaded questions. So since my husband is not here, and we're going to get into other topics when he gets here, I'm going to go ahead and give you my answers to these questions. And my answers might be a little bit different than what you think. Is appreciation something you need in a relationship? Certainly appreciation is something that is needed in a relationship, but it just really depends on the person. Sometimes more appreciation is needed, or more verbal appreciation, I should say, is needed. Depends on what their love language is. You should always appreciate your spouse, because they don't have to be there. They don't have to be good to you. They don't have to be kind to you or your significant other. You should always show appreciation. But the big thing is, you definitely want to make sure that you're showing appreciation, especially to men. Men really like that attention. They like that appreciation. They like all of that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that you're showing that. And give me a second, because I need to go live on my Instagram, because people are texting me. Where am I? Sorry, guys. So I'm going to do it right now. All right. So now we're live on Instagram as well. And so I'll recap those questions for those that are getting ready to come on to Instagram. And I hear my husband coming. Yay. All right. So is appreciating something needed in marriage? Absolutely. It is absolutely needed in marriage. And again, it's based on that person's hello, husband.
What up, though? What up, though? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
I'm up here flirting with you on Facebook.
I saw that. I like it. So anyways, is appreciation something you need in marriage, in a relationship? Absolutely. Yes. I'm answering these questions, the poll questions myself. Can I do that?
You shouldn't, but you did.
He told me not to do it. So I'm not answering any more of the questions. We'll go back and answer the questions, I guess, later, because I'm going to give my opinion. I was going to give my opinion on it. So let's get right into the topic then in that case. So we're going to not answer those questions. Sorry, guys. I'll come back and answer them later. And a lot of them you view the broadcast later anyways, so that's fine.
Did you put it out there? Did you ask it?
Yeah, I asked the questions.
I didn't see them on Facebook.
They didn't?
Not yet. So trying to figure it out.
Oh, okay. So it says publish. Did you publish it? Publish? Oh, is that yours?
No, that's how you ask. Yeah, we got it. You hit publish when you want it to appear on the screen.
Oh.
All right.
So.
All right. So.
You could have.
All right, publish. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm not on. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. So, anyways. All right. So that's one of the questions and one of the polls that we have going on. So we're going to talk about things that build your relationship and things that tear your relationship down. Okay. We kind of talked about this before, but we got a little bit of a different angle today about what we're how we're sharing today. First of all, how you doing?
Good. How are you? You're holding it down.
Oh my God.
Holding it down. So, all right, we're gonna be strong, but not long.
Absolutely, I'm down with that. Right.
So, you want to start with building first?
All right. Well, building relationships. So one of the things that you can do to build your relationship, and a lot of times when you're just dating, you do this without thinking about it, but really taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself and putting your best foot forward. We've said this a number of times, so some of this information will seem kind of redundant, but you'll be really, really, really surprised at how many people miss this, or how this kind of slips. I mean, even with me, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your appearance, taking care, you're fresh, you're cute, you
Right.
do your stuff, what I'm saying? Take care of yourself. Being sexy, being desirable. You want to make sure that you're being desirable, that you're going to the gym, that you're wearing, you don't do all of your work when you go leftovers into to the dorm and they ate it when you're going to the when you're going to bed, or when you're going out. Don't do all your work when you're going out, but do some of your work when you're going to bed. Don't just put cold cream on your face and wrap your head up. And guys don't just have the whole day on and you smelling like the outdoors and you just cut the grass. Take a shower. You know what I'm saying? Just do little things like that help to keep you attracted to one another. Do those things that you did when you were dating. Again, people that are dating or in that part of the relationship usually don't have that much of a problem unless they unless they kind of are comfortable in the relationship. You should never be that comfortable.
Right. I think my reply to that, as far as that's pretty much the same thing I had as one of the top 5, and not really in any particular order, was basically becoming too comfortable. If you become too comfortable in your marriage, like you said, or in the relationship, it can be a stumbling block. It'll because that person will start to feel unappreciative, that you're not pursuing them, or that basically our question, they're not appreciated. In that poll. So it's very important that you continue. And when you're saying comfortable, just don't take your spouse for granted. Don't take your partner for granted. If you're dating, make sure that you are always, just showing that appreciation. It's because what that does is, if you don't do that, then you're taking away some of the foundation that you've set in your marriage. As building blocks, and you always want to continue to build instead of take away.
Absolutely. Another thing is to practice honesty without cruelty. Even when you're ashamed or if you're embarrassed by your own actions, you should practice honesty and without being cruel. I think even one of our poll questions, talked about whether or not your partner, would you want your partner to lie to you or tell you the truth? It just really depends on what the situation is, as far as I mean, don't tell me I look terrible in this dress. Lie to me a little bit, or just don't say nothing. Just be like, you are always beautiful.
So it's okay to lie?
No, it's never okay to lie. I just said, just tell me I always look beautiful.
Right.
To you.
And that's
that's the truth.
But what happens if so what would you do if what would you want, knowing that if you're a person that likes looks or whatever, and you maybe
it's getting out of hand,
it don't look good in the dress that day, would you want them to go out?
No.
If I was wearing a suit and it was like, rising up in the back or something, or something crazy, wouldn't you want that honesty?
Absolutely. I would want that honesty, but again, honesty without cruelty. Not be like,
without cruelty.
Yeah, like, oh, you look a mess. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, you do look fat in that. That's not cool at all. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely not cool for you to be mean to your partner. If you be like, do I look fat in this? Yeah, you look, your gut is hanging over the bottom of your belt. No, you say, listen, you know what? How do you feel? You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like if you don't feel, 100% in that dress, why don't you try something else? If you don't feel 100% in that suit, why don't you try something else? I love you. You look amazing to me all the time.
Right. So not like what we saw earlier today. Honey, do I have a fat stomach? No. But the L is silent.
The L is silent.
So I don't have a flat stomach. I got a fat stomach.
Right.
Yeah. So without being cruel is very important.
Absolutely. And that can go not only just in light things like, do I look cute or whatever, am I a mean person, or do I talk too much, or how do you feel in our relationship? Honesty, again, without cruelty. Even if you made a mistake, if you've done something that's wrong, that you've made a indiscretion that is really, really serious, honesty, again, without cruelty. I was looking at her because she looked better than you. Honesty without cruelty. You got to really make sure that you are practicing honesty, again, without cruelty, because that will build your relationship. Because if I can depend on you to always be honest with me, then our relationship is so open and it's so fluid and so decent. and it's just good. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I can depend on you to be honest.
Right. And it's sort of funny because we didn't really do this together in our thoughts, but my other builder or loser of the tearing down the relationship is to stop being honest. And a lot of times you can tell in a relationship if you stop stop caring about your partner's feelings. So if you're in a place to where, you know what, I don't really care about what I say to them, um, like we said, being cruel. So you want to make sure you're not losing that spark by not always being honest. It's very important because you have to, without honesty, then you start losing trust. And
Yeah.
then when you stop losing trust or start to lose trust in the relationship, then that brings in opportunities for the enemy to do all kinds of things, bring all kinds of thoughts, and trust, even when it's lost, is really hard to get back up and build back up. And it takes so much more time where you can just really take time really just to be honest, and make sure that you do it, like you said, in love and in kindness. I'm trying to see, I know we got some comments up here, but we got these polls up here, so can't really see the comments today, so we do appreciate you guys, but just keep hitting those hearts or whatever, and we'll look at the comments a little later.
Yeah.
A little later.
All right.
So I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
So what you don't want to do, and I think for marriage building, for you not to lose that spark or for you to tear down, is never stop pursuing your spouse. It's very important that the same fervor that you pursued them with when you were dating, when you pursue them as newlyweds. So if you've been married 1 year, 5 years, 1 month, make sure you have that pursuit. And sometimes it gets hard, especially when you have children, especially when you have young children, especially if both people are working. Sometimes paths cross, things cross like that. Always pursue your spouse. Always make sure that you do, because if not, you're opening the door that if you don't know their love language, which we talked about a lot of times, if they crave that attention, that pursuit, they're going to go and, that gives opportunity for somebody else to give that. And once again, we always talked about building fences and how to protect your relationship. So never stop pursuing.
Absolutely. I think that is really good, as far as, a rule to make sure that, people want to feel desired. Your mate wants to feel desired. Your spouse wants to feel desired. And that's one of those reasons, again, that you want to keep that fence up. That you're desired by your spouse, that you're desired by your husband or wife. All right. My next one, and for me, this is like a super, super important one. It is something that is a make or break in relationships, I think. It's a make or break in relationship. Hi, Willie Vargas. Again, you want to make sure that you let go of the past. You let go of the past. That one is a huge one, because you can't go forward or move forward in your relationship if you don't let go of the past. Sometimes it's really difficult to do. But you say, how do I let go of the past? How do I get, past this particular part? But the biggest thing, or the biggest way that I think that you can get, if you have a relationship that's built on honesty and that's built on trust, and even if that trust or that honesty has been breached in some way, you got to get to the place where you say, hey, okay, I'm going to let go of this, but I'm going to write down every question I had about this situation or this issue, that this happened. That time when you slapped my mother, or that time when when I'm just being facetious. Right. Boy, I don't know, it might have happened to somebody. Or that time when you broke my daddy's record. Or that time when you, whatever it was, you want to write down every question that you wanted to ask with regard to that. And then that person has to know that they have the safety to be honest. Right. And after you do that, and those questions are answered, let it go.
And then that also means that the person that's offended has to be able to suck it up enough to honestly answer the questions.
Yes.
Because it's sort of like forgiveness. Sometimes forgiveness isn't really for the other person, it's for you. So if you are the offender, sometimes you have to go through the uncomfortableness of what you've done or the things that have happened, to give that honesty if you really want to move forward.
Yep.
If you really have a heart of repentance or a heart of those things, so that the person that's offended can get the closure that they need, or get the answers that they need, or just, see where your head is at, to see, what can you be honest going forward. And sometimes it's a repetitive thing, sometimes it's a one-time thing, so you also have to have some patience and kindness in that area, to make sure that you are not offended by the person that just needs to get through those questions. Sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, and sometimes it is tough. And I mean, I think that's, like I said, one of the most important ones for me, making sure that you have that conversation. Again, how do I do it? You can write questions down and say, hey, I need to ask you what you were thinking, whatever questions that you feel like were important to you in that moment, with regard to that offense. And then after that, though, move past it.
Right.
I mean, you may not be able to do it overnight, but don't continually hash back those things. I mean, some things may bring it back. It might be painful. It might be, difficult, but you move past it. You continue to move. That's right. Keep it 100. Move forward. The truth will set you free. You know what I'm saying? And and you'll be done with it, though. You can let it go from that point and be done with it. But if you always feel like there's some secret, if you always feel like there's something that was not revealed to you, if you feel like there was some dishonesty, then in those places, it's going to always be a problem, and you're never going to be able to truly get past it.
Right.
All right. So
our next question or poll that we have today, and definitely take a look. Hey, Sister Moore, bless you there on Instagram. Is having a best friend, of the opposite sex, is it appropriate? I guess, is it okay? I gotta actually pull down.
Yeah,
I forgot what I said.
That's what it said. Is it okay?
Is it okay to have a best friend of the opposite sex in marriage? And we're curious to see some of the answers, yes or no. I think that one way to lose confidence, or to lose the spark in a relationship, is to start sparking with somebody else. That is a quick way to lose that, honestly. And I think my wife, even I've heard her talking about, even when you're not married. So we'll talk about both. My wife is my best friend.
Yes.
I had best friends of the opposite sex when I, wasn't dating or wasn't married or whatever. And you might have close friends, and some friends that are close, that are like sisters to me, and she knows them. But my best friend, in my opinion, your best friend should be your spouse.
Yeah.
And that way, that, because when you look at the terms of what best friend is, it's person you share your intimate secrets with, the person that knows you from head to toe, knows your secret. And the only way that you can really have a best friend is through really relationship. So communion, talking, communicating, trusting, and all that. So I mean, it's okay to have friends of the opposite sex, but I would challenge you, if you're starting to spark with somebody else, or make them your best friend and your spouse isn't your best friend, probably should maybe reevaluate what that friendship is. Is it okay to have friends of the opposite sex? Absolutely. Should your spouse know who they are? Absolutely. 100%. Because you don't want to give any opportunity for that fence, something to hop over the fence, something to come in the fence, or something to come through the fence. And and if your best friend is secretive or whatever, then you probably need to reevaluate that, because you don't want something to happen. I mean, you have a bad day and you go talking to your best friend,
right?
And that person, even if they do have your best interest in mind, things happen. Things could happen.
Yeah.
So we challenge you to always make sure that your spouse should be that person that's your best friend.
Absolutely. And again, if you have somebody that's sharing something with you, and you can't tell nobody, blah blah blah. Well, yeah, my husband, is my best friend. So he's the person that if I share something with, that I don't tell nobody. But he, I don't be not telling anybody. My husband, I know he can keep my secrets.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and if you have a person you're in relationship with, or you have a best friend outside of your marriage,
Mm.
that's of the opposite sex, that is, you want to make sure that you, again, make sure that you're bringing your spouse always into that relationship.
Mhm.
They are friends with your spouse, and that you're still not spending no real time with that person by yourself without your spouse,
Right, right,
because they're not your best friend, your spouse is. And
right.
if they were your best friend at one point, you need to value your marriage relationship, your
Mhm.
covenant and your vows over that relationship any day.
Right. And like you
And
said,
and sometimes be like, oh, I've been friends with this person since the second grade. Well, that's great. You had a
yeah,
good run.
yeah. And, and it's okay to still be
Yeah,
friends,
you can still be
but
friends.
shouldn't be your best
Not
friend.
your best friend.
Yeah,
Not your best
and
friend.
even if they were your best friend, they your best friend from that, but your best friend is always your spouse.
Absolutely.
And so I think you proposed that question. So you're not dating, but now I mean you're not married, but you're dating, and your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your one that you're in a relationship says, "Hey, I don't like that person. You know, being around you. Stop doing that."
Mm.
What do you owe them that?
I think it depends on where you are in the relationship. If you are consistently, and you guys are in a consistency that you're moving forward towards marriage, then I think that you should show that person respect by saying, okay, then I need to temper this relationship down, on that end, if it offends you.
Mm-hmm.
In any relationship, and we go back to it, any relationship that offends your spouse, any relationship that your spouse doesn't like, you don't need to have.
Right.
Period. It's just period. I don't care if your spouse is Looney Tunes and they just don't like nobody. But if they don't like, I mean, and of course, like if they, you can still have passing relationship, be friends in passing. But if they don't like you being that close to somebody, or you talking to somebody on the phone, y'all always texting and giggling, ain't nothing funny. do not put that relationship over your spouse.
Right. And we talked about or the poll or the question was of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
But it really sometimes you can have best friends of the same sex.
Yes.
And it'd be detrimental to your relationship,
Absolutely.
especially your marriage. Because if you have for me, if I had a best friend who was single and always wanted to go out and go to the club,
or married, and didn't treat his wife right.
Yeah, you have to let those things go. And especially if my wife says, you know what, something ain't right or whatever, I'm having offense about that, you need to pull back. Because a lot of times they're outside looking in, they see some things. So if your spouse is offended by a relationship, you need to reevaluate it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be so quick to be, oh, no, deny, if you are truly trying to build your relationship, build your marriage. And I do believe, like you said, if you are single, it's a little bit different. Why is this person sort of asking, me to pull back? But are we, as a couple, are we building to go towards marriage? Yeah, I need to reevaluate that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I need to see, where I am. And then if I'm trying to vet this person for marriage, that's who the person I should be spending my time with.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually somebody else is trying to get your time.
Absolutely.
So you really have to vet on what's important to you. Where's your time spent? Where's your treasure? Because where your treasure is where your heart's going to be.
Absolutely. And I want to say, on just lastly on that particular point, if your wife has her intuition, if her intuition is saying, something ain't right about that lady, or something is not right here. A woman's intuition is better than a man's facts. That's the saying. A woman can have a feeling about something and it ain't right, and she not even have all the pieces, but she'll know something is not right, and 9 times out of 10 something ain't right. It's just, if it don't feel right, it's not right. And you want to respect that about your spouse. You're like, oh, that's all in your head. If she got a feeling, you better you respect her feeling, because a lot of times men, stuff go right over their head and they really don't know that they're being pulled in, especially by a thirsty woman. They don't know that they're being pulled in by a thirsty woman. They just completely oblivious to what this woman is doing, and the wife is like, she's gonna be a hard pass on this one. And you got to know that, and you got to respect that.
Like what they said on Instagram, even same gender relationships can be toxic because a lot of times there's people are jealous. They're jealous of what you have. they're jealous of what God didn't bless them with or whatever. And so if they can bring you down to their level or bring discord, they may be saying, hey, they're your friend, but they start talking about your husband and start, co-signing and venting, that you have to raise an eye to it, because like we said, you have to protect your relationship, your marriage with fences.
Which leads me actually to my next point, making sure that you do protect the integrity and the privacy of your relationship, making sure that you're protecting the person, your husband or your wife, protecting their image, protecting them in front of other people. Do not continually go to your friends and running your spouse down, because again, you don't know if your friend even like your spouse, because they could like them or they could like hate them, and then they'd be like, yeah, that person is a chump, your husband's a chump, or your wife is she's not, whatever. That is so not good. That is so, that is something that you don't want to do. You got to keep your private business and your relationship protected. Keep the Bible, Proverbs 31, the Proverbs 31 woman's, her husband, hello, Marty, husband is known in the gates. So that means that he's not known in the gates because she in the gates running her mouth saying he is a bum. He's known in the gates because she speaks well of him at all times. Right. And I tell my husband this often. I was like, if anybody that I work with in my profession, they all know that I'm married, and that's male or female. They all know that I'm married and that I love my husband and I love my family. And upon meeting new clients the first time, they're going to know that my husband does this, and I'm, he's an amazing person. Right. And they all know that. So that's a fence that I build and make sure that people, and then like they might not even care, but then they might, because I have had some men that have been clients that have tried to step to me, and I had to make sure that they understood exactly where I stood in my relationship. Because if you're not wearing your ring, which is a fence, you need to wear your wedding ring. That's a fence. That's a must. Wearing your wedding ring is a sign of your covenant, but it also shows other people, the offenders that could be out there, that you are not available. You're not available. So, doing that, a wedding ring ain't never kept nobody necessarily from doing devilment, but it is, if you have a heart to do right, it is a reminder.
It's a fence.
It is a fence. So again, protecting your spouse, protecting their spirit, protecting who they are, with your words, just making sure that they're protecting those things, build your relationship, build your marriage. If I know that my husband is speaking well of me behind my back, then that builds our relationship, builds my trust, builds my confidence in us and in him.
Yeah. And somebody on Facebook said, what happens in your house stays in between your four walls. And but sometimes you vent, sometimes you vent, especially you might vent to a sibling, saying, hey, but like you said, you can vent and still have your spouse in a good light.
Yes.
Now, if they're abusing you, if they're beating you, tell somebody, get out the relationship, get away, protect yourself, always be safe. But if they just constantly pass gas at night and be like, girl, and even then you shouldn't be telling your best friend that, or your friend, because we're like, anytime they look at you, be like, man, Gene's husband just fart all the time. He's probably a stinky winky, or whatever. You have to have some,
or private details about your personal life in your bedroom. Yeah. Don't share that type of information with people. Your husband likes to have bunny ears on or whatever. Don't share that, because somebody might show up with some bunny ears. You don't want to wear bunny ears. You know what I'm saying? Don't. That's just not information that you share. Protect your relationship. Protect. And I'm being facetious and being funny, you guys, but it's the truth.
The bed is undefiled.
That's right. If you like bunny ears, that's good. But do what you need to do to keep your relationship protected. It's just not always good to vent to other people. That's right, because when you things get better in your house, then somebody else always got something else to bring back up in your face.
into your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. So yes, absolutely. My biggest thing is always take it to Jesus. You can talk to Jesus and he will never tell you secrets. I don't care. He won't tell it to a prophet. He won't tell it to nobody unless it needs to be said. But he will definitely keep your secrets, and you can tell God about it.
Definitely keep hitting those likes and heart buttons. We appreciate you. We're trying to do these polls on Facebook, so we're a little slow on the responses, but when we see that you like and hit those heart buttons, we know that you're with us. I think one of the last things, two more that I have for how you don't want to lose your spark or don't want to tear down is always making everything else more important than your marriage, or than your marriage and then your spouse. Meaning, time is very important. So making sure that you are not putting the kids first, not putting your job first, not putting time first, not talking to your spouse and you've been home all day, not talking to him or her till you get into bed at 11 o'clock at night, doing those things, not being on your phone, answering emails consistently, whatever, not letting life be because this is your partner, this is your life partner, and we're taking this journey together. And really the time that you spent together is precious. My wife mentioned because of my job, I do a lot of traveling, and I've had a time to be at home for a bit. And then the reality of me having to go back to that lifestyle of being gone a few days a week, we got used to us being home. And she was like, oh, I'm gonna be gone, and we really had time to enjoy each other, which we hadn't had in years. But when you take that time and you take yourself out of the presence of your spouse while you're present, that can be a block, a stumbling block. That'll be something that can tear or remove the spark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you definitely want to make sure that you're making the most of that time when you do have that time with your spouse. Like I said, I've enjoyed him being home, and making sure that that we're doing the things that we need to do to continue to build our relationship while we're Casey, while we're at home. So and enjoying our relationship and enjoying each other. And again, not doing that again will tear down your relationship, will tear down that foundation of what your relationship is built on.
What do you have for one more?
That was my last one.
All right, so our last poll on here on Facebook, we're gonna put that out there. It's sort of a fun one. Is basically the question is how long is too long to go without having sex in a marriage? And we put 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, and 3 months. And the reason we ask that question is because I do believe that if you don't make sex a priority in your marriage, then that is an opportunity for you to lose the spark. You have to make it a priority. You have to take time to have that intimacy, that bond coming together. It's very, very important not to lose that intimacy that a couple share. So you don't ever want to use sex as a weapon. You don't ever want to say, you know what, I'm not going to give it to you because I'm mad at you. Don't want to use it even as a gift. It should be something that is used because it's enjoyable and you love the intimacy. But when you start using it for other things, it can cause you to lose that spark in your relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you want to make sure that, because I know a lot of women that don't even like sex. Just don't like it. They don't want to be with their spouses. They just it's hard for them to get into that zone for whatever reason. Could be many different reasons why that's the case. But men, for the most part, the majority of the time, unless there's a medical thing happening with them or something is going on there, usually that's like the first time or the first thing.
KC, man, that's our buddy.
Yeah, but men usually that is the first thing that's on their mind. So we want to make sure that you are meeting that need and meeting each other's needs, and whatever you have to do. Again, going back to that honesty without cruelty. You can tell your husband, okay, I don't really love it tell your significant other, I don't really love it. Hey, Zari. Xavier is on here. But just, you can share that honesty without cruelty. Right. Sharing, hey, I don't like this part of, or I'd like it better in our intimacy if we did this, or I like it better in our intimacy if you did this with me, or if I like it better in our intimacy if this happened. And if you're doing that, if you're sharing, like saying that, I like this better in our intimacy, again, that's being honest without cruelty. Then that person could know, because they can't read, your husband or your wife cannot read your mind. We have been married for 21 years and still can't read his mind. I mean, I have to ask questions, and I have to get quantify what's going on. Right. So you're gonna ask a lot of questions. You got to do all of that to make sure that you're.
And I think also, when I said making sex no longer a priority, before you get to the sex, before you get to the intimacy, there should be some type of, like we said, warming up. There should be some romance. If you as a man, is your sex, it's funny, sex drives are going to go up and down. They go up daily, they go up yearly, they go up in a decade. That's just a fact of life. So if your wife is like a tea kettle and she needs warming up a little bit, then that sexual intimacy should start with a good morning kiss, with a hug in the morning, with a text from work saying, I'm thinking about you, sending her doing something, because a lot of times women just, not always be like, all right, it's 9 o'clock at night, let's get going. Well, the day has, come on, and you have to be able to warm that teapot up. You got to get that water boiling. And usually, like a teapot, once you get it warmed up and you get it boiling and start whistling, it whistles and it spills over, and it'll stay warm for a long time. So if I had to answer the poll, I would have been like 1 hour.
I know, right?
It's too long.
I said mine was like 1 day. Let's get going.
Right.
But somebody asked, what if they don't listen, even if you explain? You just have to keep explaining. You have to keep and you have to do it in a way that is in their language, in their love language, in the language that they speak. And we talk about love languages all the time, how people communicate all the time. Communication is really, really important, but people do not pay enough attention to communication.
Right.
They don't do it. They don't communicate in the way that person receives language, receives information. Some people are very visual. Again, we talked about love languages. Is it 5 love languages? I forget. And some people are words of affirmation. Some people are people that are physical touch, acts of service, a number of them, and you can look those love languages. And so you got to talk to them and I know the simple concept, but they do not get it. I get what you're saying. Right. A simple concept, but some people don't get it, but you got to speak it to them in their language.
Right. And that's important. If you're and love languages for men sometimes differ than for women. And it's not even men and women, it's just a personality.
Yeah.
If my wife, like for me to maybe buy her a car, may not be as important as me doing the dishes or cooking her a meal, because she's not really a gift person as much as a action, affirmation type of thing. So you got to make sure that in romance and even in relationship, you have to speak the person's love language. And that's something that you learn by, first take the test. That's something that you do. Yeah, you gotta, because I was even surprised. I didn't know what my love languages are, and I'm like, hey, I like that. I do like gifts or whatever it is, or physical touch, or saying, the person. If usually men have a language of affirmation. They like to be told, hey, you're doing a good job. We appreciate. Just culturally, that's what they take. And if you're not feeding that into them, that might be a reason why that part of your relationship is lacking a little bit.
Absolutely, because sometimes you see a woman that has an amazing, this super fine guy with just got all this stuff going with her, and she's just kind of an average girl. And you wonder how this average girl gets this amazing guy. He's a New York 10 and she is a Arizona 5 or Arizona 2, which is totally not Arizona 2 is a New York -1, okay? But a New York 10, he's on and popping. How did this person get that person? Well, a lot of times it's affirmation and being there.
Right.
And telling that person that they're speaking their love language, speaking that love language. They have to be open to take the test. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if they're not open to take the test, if they're not open to communicating, you can kind of even ask them questions randomly. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, you can make them take the test by them not even taking it. You can be just giving them or whatever, or, being just saying, hey, if you really care about me, I want you to just do this. It's a little fun thing. We can do that. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes you can really assess people, what love language they have, by how they act towards people. Like, right. I can look at certain people. Your hat's in my way, babe. Sorry. That's okay.
Just trying to read those.
That's okay. When you look at certain people, how do they act? What do they do? Do they always give somebody a gift? Do they always give you a card? Do they, or people that they love? Do they bake them a cake, or do they like take the trash out, cut the grass, and do all of these things for you? Or do they run errands for you? That person is an acts of service person, because that's what they do. If they work or do things, then they're an active service person. If they buy you cards, buy you gifts, bring you flowers, or buy somebody else these things, that person is a gifts person. You know what I'm saying? That's how you can really tell what their language is by the way that they show love.
I like what Casey said. Your goal, even in communication, is the end result is to be is to be able to please, no matter if it's sexually or mentally stimulating. Absolutely. Your partner, your end result. If you really have to check your heart. If you're not willing to be the person that you're pleasing to your spouse, you have to really check yourself, do a self-check. Why am I not wanting to feed my spouse in the way that they want to be fed? It doesn't matter if my wife takes me to the best sushi chef restaurant in the world. If I don't like sushi, that's a waste of effort. Yeah. And then you have to take that same principle. If my spouse doesn't speak the language, and which is usually, I think,
yes, we're also on Facebook to answer your question.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, act of service, and physical touch. Those are those. So once your partner's love language is going to make you able to communicate more effectively in your relationship.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. This is not a long one. So those of you that are on Instagram, we were doing some polls on Facebook, so you can follow us either on Instagram or on Facebook. We please go back, and we actually want to see what you guys say about some of the other polls that we have. This one here, how long is it to go without sex in marriage? One person answered 1 week. So you really want to make sure that you are keeping intimacy at the top as a priority, not at the top, just as a priority, so that that's, once again, that's a fence.
Absolutely.
If you're not, and that's something that your spouse desires, eventually if they don't communicate to you that that's something that they desire, it's going to build a wall, and it builds a wedge or opportunity for things to happen.
And for people that are not married, this is a big thing. And I was counseling another young lady, and she has she believes in celibacy. She believes in abstaining before she gets married, and she has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend doesn't necessarily believe the same thing, doesn't believe the same way. So I told her, I says, honey, it's going to be a certain amount of time. And if he's any kind of man, if you're not getting it from you, he's going to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
He's going to get it from somewhere, because you guys are not equally yoked. You're not on the same page with regard to that. Now, if he's, on the same page and he's trying, sometimes, he may not be, that's not successful, because, that's really, you have to really be a master of your own will when you're, seeking God and you're a single person.
Right.
And I think especially when you're a single guy.
And then, I believe as we have a Christian foundation. In dating, you have to have that conversation. Don't be fooled to be like, okay, well, we're being abstinent, we're loving God, we're serving God, we're not having sex for. You better talk about it.
You better talk about it. You better be like, if you want my body and you think I'm sexy, you better let me know, because you might find out that person would never stun you.
Right. Now, if you're talking about it every day, you need to go pour some water on your
head. You need to have a cold shower, but don't talk about it every day.
You need to be equally yoked in every aspect.
Absolutely.
That person, if you are that type of person, and sometimes, especially if you have not, been that way, that's something that you learn. But that's the beauty of marriage. You learn it together.
Absolutely.
And you should be attractive and attentive and wanting to seek your spouse in those intimate ways. And then if things are different levels or different ways, patience.
Absolutely.
Patience, communication, everything that we talked about. But you don't want to let intimacy or the lack of it be a barrier that's going to cause issues.
Absolutely, because that person could have certain expectations, and you guys have never discussed those expectations. Then that's going to be a situation within your relationship. It's going to be a situation within your relationship. And as with this young lady, she ended up getting her heart broke because he was sleeping around, and I'm like, are you surprised? Are you really though? Really? Are you though? Because he doesn't believe that. So why would you be surprised? Yeah. So, you gotta just be realistic, and even, no matter how bad you want to be in a relationship, you gotta be realistic with that other person's reality, what they're really thinking, what they're believing, what their thoughts are, and have that conversation.
Let me put this out there. We're going to wrap it up. I appreciate our brother Casey saying keep going. But what happens for the single people? Because we talk about marriage a lot. For the single dating person that are Christians and they mess up, get
back on the saddle.
Yeah,
not like on the saddle. I mean, hey, we fall down, but we get up.
But the part was that, have you ever seen or dealt or heard or dealt with that to where after they've had that experience, the relationship doesn't lead to marriage? So, now what? So now I made a mistake, oops, I did it. The person, either the male or female, left because they got what they wanted. How do you deal with that? And what would your answer be?
I mean, that's really a place that you have to really make sure that you're, that you deal with in prayer, and it takes some healing, because that is a soul tie when you do are in a relationship with somebody sexually. And then when you're not married to that person, it's almost like there's just a ripping away.
Right.
And, you definitely have to pray and really, there's a scripture in the Bible, I believe it is the Song of Solomon, says, don't awaken my love before it is time. Don't awaken your love before it's time, because if you awaken, it's hard to put that boy back to sleep, okay?
It is.
It's hard to put it back to sleep if you wake it up. And I'm going to answer your question too in just a minute, Zabi.
And because the reason I ask that is because people put weight on certain acts, or like, well, lying's not as bad as this or that, or whatever. And really, sin is sin or whatever, but what I love is that grace is still grace. And I don't even know why I really asked it, but if there's been Christians that have had those instances when that has happened, what?
Yeah,
as long as you have a repentant heart, and if you made that mistake and that person is left, well, one, that might probably is God showing that's not the person for you. Right. But don't let the enemy isolate you and be like, you're the only one that did it. You're the only one that had sex before marriage, and because you did that, now you're never gonna be holy again.
The right person. You don't move your place out of line. You're not getting nobody. That is so absolutely not true, because everybody, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Every last one of them. And even Jesus said, "There's none good but the Father." None. So how about that? God's grace is sufficient for you. Every sin has consequence, but it does not have, even though when the payment is demanded, Jesus already made that payment for you. So you're good. You're good there. And you can be whole. You can love again. And that says, I will be glad when my king comes along. He better watch out, because I have so much love to give. Yes, honey. Yes, reserve it for him, because when you're able to pour out that love on the one that's deserving of it, that person just only reciprocates. And I believe, God, for everyone that wants somebody, I believe God has somebody for you. And if you trust and believe God, and make sure that you're just being sincerely and seeking him, you will definitely find what God has for you. And I know that Xavier, she asked a question: how long is it? Should you wait after you remarry or after divorce to remarry? Well, that's a question that is case specific. It just depends. And the ultimate answer is when you're healed from that relationship.
Right.
When you're healed from that former relationship, when you feel like, because I heard somebody say that divorce is almost like as painful as losing a child.
Right.
Death. It's like the death of a child. Divorce is almost as painful as the death of a child, and it's worse, they said, because you cannot get closure necessarily from, because you got to keep seeing that person, especially if you got children with them. It's hard to get that closure from that situation. But it is possible. It happens every day. People go on and move on with their lives every day. And when you have healing and wholeness, because you don't want to take your brokenness into another relationship, because it's going to only be a repeat of what happened. Get a release, like you said, or a release. When you get a release and you get healing from that former relationship, go on and go on to whatever God has for you from that point. Just go on.
Because we've seen a lot of people, or you see sometimes that people have gotten a divorce and just hop right into another relationship. And not judging. Sometimes God will bring that ram in the bush right there or whatever. But we've talked about in our past conversations and chats about, you still have to be, two halves don't make a whole in a relationship. You have to be whole. And if you have certain issues or certain things where that wholeness is not there, you really need God to heal that and to fill it out. Absolutely. So that you can go into your next relationship being whole. So if you have areas of or issues that need work on, you should let God work on those issues. And like you said, getting over some of the past things of that relationship is not a failure. It is just that, we believe that as Christians, you should always, try your best to work it out. But the Bible also says if that husband doesn't want to be married to the believer, you at some point, you wash your hands, and move on. And if you've done everything that you can to save your relationship, and you've done the biblical things that what God, then you shouldn't have any grief. You will have grief, but you shouldn't have any. You shouldn't let the enemy try to trick you in believing that it was your fault.
Absolutely.
Because
live with no regrets. Keep it moving.
God's grace is sufficient for you. So we're going to wrap it up tonight. We appreciate you guys. Hope that you guys have enjoyed it. We appreciate the hearts and the likes. This is episode 21, 22. So we got 20 topics that we talked about. You can go on our Facebook page, or you can go on our YouTube page and watch. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. Please share this with somebody. Tell them to come and join us next week at 9:00 for 11 and 60 seconds. And we promise we're going to get more content out on our Instagram, on our little weekly and daily encouragement. But we appreciate each and every one of you that logged on. God bless you. And we will see you next week, 9:00 Eastern. Tell somebody. Go back and if you guys are on Instagram, go back and answer the polls on Facebook.
Yes.
The Facebook page is WhatsUp Entertainment. Our YouTube is WhatsUp Video, and our Instagram is WhatsUp Entertainment. So you can search us there. All right. God bless you. We love you guys. See you next week.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.